If anybody has an understanding of of exactly how the film is going to finish in pacing, if anybody does, it would be Michael. Michael would orchestrate it in a very specific way and say, well, this section's going to be this and this, and even probably to the timings. He's extremely meticulous in making a film.
You manipulated me into this.
That's bullshit, Jeff.
You greased the rails.
I greased the rails for a guy who wanted to say yes. I helped him to say yes, that's all. You're not a robot, Jeff. Right? You got a mind of your own, don't you?
Up to you, Jeffrey. That's the power you have, Jeffrey. Vital insider information the American public need to know. Lowell Bergman, the hotshot who never met a source he couldn't turn around.
I fought for you, and I still fight for you.
You fought for me? You manipulated me into where I am now. Staring at the Brown and Williamson building. It's all dark except the 10th floor. That's the legal department. That's where they fuck with my life.
His vision is the movie, you know? Not that he's not collaborative, but Michael knows. Michael spends a tremendous amount of time before his movies creating how this movie's going to be, you know? And I've never experienced that kind of detail work from any other director, ever.
I've heard him say it before, and that is, I don't care what goes on in the world around outside of this frame. As long as I get it in the can, I can make the movie. And he is so, again, singularly focused on what's happening between the people on the screen.
For an actor, he was the perfect director to work with because I feel that he loves these characters that he created and that he's only going to put people in there that he knows that he'd be happy with. And when you know somebody truly loves their characters and you feel that you are the right person for that, you don't worry. And you don't think, okay, what is he going to do here? And is he going to misread what's happening here? You surrender your control, in a sense.
Michael's intense attention to detail is extraordinary. And I think that's what movies are all about. A director who pays such attention to detail, I respect more than anything. He's one of them.
And action!
Michael Mann a réalisé 6 films et 2 téléfilms. Cette liste peut sembler courte, mais on y compte d'impressionnants succès au box-office tels que Le Sixième Sens, Le Dernier des Mohicans, Hit et Révélation. Il a également mis en scène de célèbres séries comme Deux flics à Miami et Crime Story. Né à Chicago, Mann fait ses études à l'université du Wisconsin. Puis, avec le soutien de son père, un ancien militaire, il part en Angleterre avec son frère, vers le milieu des années 60 pour éviter la guerre du Vietnam. Là, il s'inscrit à l'école du cinéma de Londres.
Chicago was an interesting city to grow up in. It was very much... My childhood was very much in an inner city environment and kind of a working class, lower middle class neighborhood called Humboldt Park around North Avenue in Kedzie. And there was progressive jazz on the south side, the Checkerboard Lounge, 64th and Cottage Grove, that was kind of the quintessence of what was cool. I'm speaking of the late 50s modern jazz quartet, Miles, Thelonious Monk. And then on the west side, there was Curly's Place, which was Muddy Waters' neighborhood bar, and he played it 4 nights a week when he had the Optimum band with Otis Spann on the piano. But that was Chicago. I have a lot of affection for it. So it is not by accident that the first feature film I made, Thief, was very much set in Chicago that I started to find visually very exciting. And I got seriously interested in cinema as a surprise to myself. At a much later age, I was about 20, 21, and I was at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, which again, I was very fortunate to be there. It was kind of a golden period of time at Wisconsin. Wisconsin was one of the 3 or 4 radical campuses in the United States with Berkeley, Madison, and Columbia. And I took a course in film history quite by accident, and a lot of things I was interested in suddenly focused and took me over. It's one of the few times in my life that I just, it's almost like the skies parted and a large hand came down and said, "You will do this." And that was the, it just occurred to me coming down the hill one night. I remember it vividly at about 10 o'clock at night. It was about 10 below zero, crystal clear night in the winter in Madison, Wisconsin. And I just come from seeing either Pabst Joyless Street or it was probably a Murnau film. I don't remember the film. And so it occurred to me, this is what you have to do. This is what you want to do. This is what you've been looking for. You know, you want to make films. You want to be a film director. And then it changed my life. And I've always considered myself a very fortunate man to have found that thing to do for which I have an unabating passion. The most important thing for me personally, and that affected the way I make film, which is relative, it's only of significance to me, it's not a prescription for anybody else, is an interdisciplinary approach, meaning that I was drawn to use all of the tools at my command. So my ambition for myself was, it was from, 1967, was towards 66, 67, I was drawn towards a highly cinematic form of film that used formal elements in their fullest to be expressive. And one could predict from that approach that the first attempts would be really awkward because you're trying to wield the totality of it. It would be highly predictable that it would be a disaster. And so I made some student films, which I'll never allow anyone to see, that are really, genuinely terrible. And that is the other function of film school, is to make really terrible, it's terribly important to make terrible films, to just extend oneself into, whole orders of magnitudes of ridiculousness. You can't do it when you get out of film school. So to really reach and stretch and be very experimental is a great value.
Après son retour aux États-Unis au début des années 70, Michael Mann connaît un certain succès comme scénariste. Il écrit plusieurs épisodes de Starsky et Hutch. Bientôt, il commence à travailler sur Police Story et il écrit le pilote qui va créer la série télévisée Vegas. Il réalise ensuite son premier long-métrage, Comme un homme libre, à l'origine prévu pour la télévision, mais sorti en salle en dehors des États-Unis. Le film remporte un Emmy Award et décroche le prix du meilleur réalisateur de la Guilde des réalisateurs. Michael Mann raconte les pressions inhérentes à un premier film.
The anxiety, I don't think I had a lot of anxiety. Of course, I had some anxiety about the first day of shooting, but the first day of shooting isn't really the first day of shooting. It's the weeks and weeks prior to that, the 6 weeks prior to that, when you anticipate it and you're casting. There's so much anxiety in pre-production and making sure that everything's going to be there, but that by the time you hit that first day of principal photography, I'm just concentrating on getting everything that I wanted to do that day done really well. So if there is a day of high anxiety, it's probably 3 weeks beforehand. When the warden told me, if there's a gang war or a race war, we'll throw you out and you won't be able to come back.
En 1981, Michael Mann réalise Le Solitaire avec James Caan, Tuesday Weld, Willie Nelson et James Belushi. Dans son rôle de voleur professionnel malin et effronté, coincé entre la pègre de Chicago et la police corrompue, James Caan est impressionnant.
What the hell do you think that I do?
You sell little fucking cars, that's what you do.
I wear $150 slacks. I wear silk shirts. I wear $800 suits. I wear a gold watch. I wear a perfect D, flawless, 3-carat ring. I change cars like other guys change their fucking shoes. I'm a thief. I've been in prison, all right?
95% of his work is done before he hits the set. He's researched everything, every character, every detail in the movie. There was a scene where I'm on top of the building in Los Angeles when we're scoping out the job. And it was just one scene, and he wanted a Hawaiian shirt on me, and he had a specific idea about a Hawaiian shirt. Drove this poor girl crazy for, 8 weeks, and kept saying no to shirts, no, 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 and made her make a shirt for me for that one scene. I mean, he wanted a specific Hawaiian shirt with the white flower, the black, and the red. So he's very specific with everything around him, including the actors.
The real reason to do Thief was I was struck with the notion of something I'd picked up in Folsom Prison, of somebody coming out of prison, autodidactic, self-taught. They had been off the street from when they were, say, 17 to their early 30s or mid-30s. They had none of the normal development that we have. And I was struck by the notion of telling a story about a wild child, and all that subgenre of wild child movies, when someone is removed from society and now they re-enter it. The collision of that character with society causes all kinds of wonderful conflicts and wonderful revelations. So in a way, Frank, played by Jimmy Caan, is out of society. He doesn't know how to work a jukebox. He doesn't know how to ask a woman out on a date. He doesn't know how to work a push-button payphone. In the work I had done on Jericho Mile, I met people like that, and they all come out with a plan of how they're going to do it, how they're going to make it on the street.
He told us, never speak in contractions. Never say, I can't, or I won't be there. It's always, I cannot be there. I will not be. You will meet me at, because in this guy's life, these thieves, everything had to be clear and specific so nothing got messed up. I mean, little things like that.
I stole $40.
$40?
Yeah. Started with a 2-year bit, parole in 6 months. And right away, I got into this problem with these 2 guys. They tried to turn me out. So I picked up 9 more on a manslaughter beef, some other things. I was 20 when I went in, 31 when I come out.
I think the part of Thief I like the best is the story at the end, in which he is vulnerable to exploitation as a wage slave working for Leo, who in a very brutal fashion kills Jim Belushi.
The way it was written was that this character gets shot in the belly and falls in a car. And I'm like, what kind of death scene is that, Michael? And he goes, well, you want to do it? And I said, yeah, I want to do it. So he introduced me to the stunt coordinator, Walter Scott. I said, this is Jim Belushi, this is Walter Scott. He's playing a part of Barry. He'd like to do his own stunt. And then he walked and left me with this big stunt man who goes, actor wanted to do stunt. Okay, what's it like? How would you react if you got shot in the stomach? I'll go, he goes, no. And the long story short is I worked with Carl, worked with Walter, worked with him, until we had a run, a jump, a hit on the tire, a body turn, 2 shots. I got yanked back, hit the van, and then go down. It was an acrobatic feat.
It's all fact-based, everything in Thief. And a lot of the people in the film were, some are dead now, were and are professional thieves, and a lot of them are detectives in the Criminal Intelligence Unit, which is the elite task force. I crossed them. I would have thieves playing cops and have cops playing thieves, because they all grew up in the same neighborhood, the same inner city near Northwest Side neighborhood called the Patch in Chicago, and they were more at ease playing their opposite numbers. That's where Dennis Farina came from. Dennis was he was a cop in Chicago, he was a detective.
A couple hours after I got home, the phone rang. And it was a girl that worked in Michael's office. They had set up offices, in Chicago and stuff. And she said, Michael would like you to come down and for a fitting of wardrobe and makeup and stuff. He wants to cast you in this movie. So I thought it was these guys goofing around because we were out all night, and they knew I would be tired, and they're just playing around. So I says, okay, all right, I'll come down. So now I figure I get there, and they'll be sitting there, they'll have a laugh, ha ha ha, and we'll have a cup of coffee and we'll eat breakfast, and that'll be the end of that. But sure enough, I get down there and this girl is waiting for me, and she takes me into the hair and makeup and wardrobe and stuff like that. And Michael walks in and he says, I want you to do the part of this character, Carl.
I'm going to tell you how relentless Michael is about getting what he wants. I was to get married on a Saturday, May 17th, and he wanted me to shoot a scene on May 17th. And I said, Michael, you want me to call my wife and cancel the wedding? You call her. What's the number? Hi, Sandy, Michael Mann, how are you? Good, good. Well, congratulations. Listen, I'm going to need Jim on Saturday for this shot. And you know what? We got married a week later.
En 1983, Michael Mann signe La Forteresse Noire, un film sur la corruption et l'amour pendant la Seconde Guerre mondiale. Scott Glenn campe un mystérieux voyageur qui retourne dans les Carpates pour empêcher qu'une force maléfique soit remise en liberté. Cette histoire peu ordinaire plaît surtout aux amateurs du cinéma fantastique et ne rencontre pas le succès escompté auprès des critiques et du public.
This is a very shy boy, Will. What were the yards like?
Big backyards, fences, hedges. Why?
Because, my dear Will, if this pilgrim imagines he has a relationship with the moon, he might go outside to look at it.
En 1986, Michael Mann revient en force avec Le Sixième Sens, interprété par William Petersen.
If one were nude, it would be...
Tiré du roman Le Dragon Rouge de Thomas Harris, le film met en scène le personnage du docteur Hannibal Lecter, qui sera immortalisé dans le film Le Silence des Agneaux.
Look at me. To get the old scent back again, didn't you?
I want your opinion.
I don't have one right now.
Well, when you have one, I'd like to hear it.
Can I keep this?
I haven't decided yet.
I'll study them. When you get more files, I'd like to see them too. You can call me when I have to call my lawyer. They bring me a telephone. Would you like to leave me your home phone number?
No.
Do you know how you caught me, Will?
Goodbye, Dr. Lecter. You can leave messages for me at the number on
You
the
know
file.
how you caught me? The reason you caught me, Will, is you're just alike. You want the scent. Smell yourself.
I don't think there is anybody who is more careful about his work than Michael. I mean, I used to think sometimes it was ridiculous that we were on the 25th take of something. I wasn't sure what I could do any differently to make it this way or that way. I, at the time, being a young film novice actor, you know, thought, is this crazy? I mean, why are we doing all these takes and all these things? And then, of course, you watch the work and you see it on the screen and you go, oh, that's why.
Après avoir lu le roman Le Dragon Rouge, Michael Mann découvre un autre tueur en série, Dennis Wallace. Dennis exige une intervention chirurgicale spéciale, mais l'État de Californie la lui refuse.
I become interested in him way early on because he was sued the state of California to get a stereotactic procedure. This is where they drill a couple of holes in your skull and go in with a couple of anodes and burn out parts of the amygdala under the idea that it cures schizophrenia. And when you talk to these very frightening neurosurgeons, they would also tell you it also cures the common cold. So Dennis was suing the state because he wanted this procedure, and they were denying it to him. I wanted to find a way to do Dennis's story and could not. Harris, in Red Dragon, invented the character of Graham, who had to empathize with the fantasy of a serial killer to discover the serial killer's motive. And it was an ingenious invention, and that became how to do it. The most poignant moment of that motion picture for me is actually the relationship between Dollarhide and Reba, the blind girl. It's a wounded human being, and a severely wounded human being. He has an unusual insight into her and realizes that she would be substituting sensory intake through touch and smell